Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer. The feature race at Hastings Park on Saturday is the Grade 3 $250,000 British Columbia Derby. Let's take a look at this field of three-year-olds getting set to go a mile and an eighth, 3 turns around the Hastings Park Oval. Our stakes preview is brought to you by our friends at Hastings Park. Mike, let's take the field in post position order. But before we do that, I do want to take a look at the time form U.S. pace projector for this race. The 4 All Good, a former Bob Baffert trainee, is making his first start for a new barn. He's stretching out a little bit. I'm not sure how good this horse is, but he does have speed, and he might be able to control a moderate pace.
Yeah, I think this horse is a contender in this race. We'll see. I'm sort of with you. I'm not sure how good he is, but he still has a lot of upside if he can get to the front in this race. And then he has to, of course, see out the 9 furlongs as well. But if he can do that, I think he's a player in this field.
A horse that is going to have to improve off his most recent outing, Drew the Rail. That's the one, Doobie. We'll go back to his most recent race. This is a non-winners at 2 Life, and I was a little disappointed by this loss. He's making the lead right now. He's about a length and a half clear in the short stretch, and he's just going to get run down late. He only earned a 64 buyer. That pales in comparison to those of the main contenders. You got to do better.
I probably would have liked to have seen him win that race if I was going to really consider him in here. He looks like he's way up against this field.
You and I landed on the number 2 Explode in the Grade 3 Canadian Derby last time out. And to be honest with you, I think we were a little lucky to be put up via disqualification when that Godolphin horse Journeyman and Exploded were involved in a little bit of a bumping incident in mid-stretch. But this horse is in very good form. I mean, we know the trip he had 2 starts back when he was just ridiculously wide at Century Mile. He likes Hastings. He has tactical speed, and he's just very logical.
I think it makes a lot of sense right back in this race. He's just in really good form right now. I think you're probably right that he was lucky to be placed first last time, but it doesn't mean he didn't run a good race, because he did. I actually feel like getting back to 9 furlongs helps him.
Horses coming out of the Winston Churchill Derby trial, local prep race for this at Hastings on August the 5th. We've got several horses coming out of there, including the 3 Stay Fantastic. We'll take a look at that race right now, focusing on Stay Fantastic, who's down inside and finishing second, and the winner, the 5-Star General, who just blasted to the front and showed them his heels. It was a really nice effort for 5-Star General, and as for the runner-up, he was just second best.
He was just second best. He tried really hard in that race. He was just no match for the winner. I agree with you. 5-Star General got a really aggressive ride, which I liked, and he just kept going through the stretch. I thought that was a pretty nice performance for that horse.
Now, we mentioned the 4 All Good when discussing that time form U.S. pace projector. Again, this is a former Bob Baffert trainee, very well bred. And we'll look at his most recent race at Los Alamitos. This is in early July, and he's down on the inside as they swing into the stretch. And there have been times when a lot of handicappers have told me you really don't want to be down inside at Los Al, but it just looks like they're grinding this out in a very short field. It just seems workmanlike for all of these horses. All Good ran in okay second. He has some upside. I think he has to do better. Maybe that pace projector helps him a lot.
Maybe it does. I'm with you. That's not a visually impressive performance there. You can see he's not really finishing at the end of that race. He does hold on for second, and now he's got to even stretch out longer. That's a very long stretch also, though, at Los Al. So maybe this configuration will play better for him if he can make the front.
Nothing wrong with what the 5 Call It a Wrap has done. He has been very, very consistent since his 2-year-old season last year at Hastings. He just really hasn't gotten over the hump against a few of these horses. I think if you give him a little bit of a pace up front, he can maybe better his 15-1 morning line. Maybe he's a horse you could use and consider underneath in single race exotics.
Yeah, I think there will be some pace in this race too. We'll see how that all plays out. He does have to improve. He's taken a small step forward in his last 3 starts. He's probably got to take one more.
Final Jeopardy, the number 6, was the beaten favorite in the Canadian Derby. He came with some pretty big credentials. He was second in the Grade 3 Dwyer behind Code of Honor, who, of course, came back to win the prestigious Travers at Saratoga. We were worried about the 1.25 miles in the Canadian Derby, and I think that got him the last 1/8 of a mile or so, but he got pinched back at the start. He ended up farther behind than I thought he was going to be, made a little bit of a mid-race move, flattened out. I love the blinkers. This barn just does amazing work with blinkers on, cutting back in distance. I think we'll see the real Final Jeopardy on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, he makes a lot of sense in this race. I do think, yeah, I guess my problem with him going into the Canadian Derby was the distance. I still don't even think 9 furlongs is a great distance for him. I think he wants to go shorter than that. But maybe it won't matter against this field. The blinkers could obviously help him. I thought all in all, even after he got bumped at the start last time, boy, did he get a good ride in that race. He never lost any ground around the turn. He wasn't really finishing through the stretch, but that's to be expected going 10. Maybe 9 helps him, Dan, but I'm still not sold on this horse.
Flat Out Winner is the number 7. Flat Out Winner comes out of the Canadian Derby, was wide from a tough outside post position. That being said, he was claimed for 75,000. These connections had high hopes in these races in northern, in Western Canada, and he just hasn't lived up to those expectations just yet.
It hasn't panned out for him yet. He gets one more chance in this race. He should have some pace in front of him. We'll see if he can take a step forward.
5-Star General, we talked about him, major improvement. This horse was trained by Arnaud Delacour, ran in some really good races like the Sam F. Davis, the Jeff Ruby Stakes, but I think they found put him on the front, and he can be very dangerous close to the pace again.
Yeah, I mean, I think he just makes a lot of sense in this race. I think they will go with him and put him forward into this race. I think the distance should be okay for him. He just looks to me like a horse who's just a lot better on dirt. They tried synthetic and turf with him earlier.
Bound, another honest runner, has hit the board in his last couple of races, just hasn't gotten over the hump. Outside post position, must avoid a wide trip. Last race better from a buyer's standpoint, but still 5 lengths behind 5-Star General.
Slowly improving. He's got to improve again. I think he can get a piece of this, though, if the pace sets up for him.
Let's take a look at our top picks for the Grade 3 British Columbia Derby. I want to give Final Jeopardy one more chance, turning back in distance, adding the blinkers. He was okay in the Canadian Derby. I still think if he can run his race like the Dwyer, he's not going to lose in here. But I do admit the distance is somewhat concerning, although the cutback should help.
Yeah, getting to a little shorter helps him. I still, again, think the 9 is maybe too far for him. We'll see what happens. I like 5-Star General. I liked his last race. I think he's going to be forward in here. I took him, and I'm not way against Explode. I think Explode makes a lot of sense right back, but I don't want him as the favorite this time. I went 8, 2, 6, and 4.
I went 6, 8, 3, and 2, your top selection. My second pick in the Grade 3 British Columbia Derby. Our stakes preview presented by our friends at Hastings, and approximate post time is at 4:35 Pacific. Good luck.